lady, Rachel Burns, who grew up in Armagh, surrounded by books, and her parents were librarians, which I imagine was a help to somebody interested in all things connected with writing and words. These days, Rachel lives in Belfast and is still surrounded by books, and occasionally puts pen to paper herself. Tonight, we're delighted to have Rachel here reading An Encounter.
Living in the same place you grew up, nobody is really a stranger. You may not know the people you see on the street, but you went to school with brown-haired sister. Tall's parents know your mother. Glasses works part-time in the bank. The faces you see around make up the landscape, part of the city the same as the buildings. Furrowed brows and laughter lines like cracks in the pavement. Hundreds of eyes reflecting light, windows in the sun. People often talk about the kindness of strangers, but what really appeals is the mystery of strangers, don't you think? The idea that there's a whole brand new life behind each face you see. Stories of scars and tattoos, adventures and horrors, pain and laughter, and everything in between. Each individual a borrowed library book, paperbacks and hardbacks, some dog-eared with cracked spines, some pristine with freshly bleached crisp pages. You arrived one July evening, stepping off the bus with a suitcase and a coat that was far too heavy for this time of year. I was immediately curious. This was a real stranger. I was leaning on a low wall by the bus stop, waiting for a friend to come and meet me. The city was quiet at that hour, the low hum of a streetlight above me, and the distant roar of the motorway providing the soundtrack to young couples laughing as they fell out of bars. There is an odd comfort in meeting strangers, the electric uncertainty of an unknown presence and the freedom from expectation, and the idea that in that moment you're a stranger too, an honesty that is rare with the familiar. You set your beaten suitcase on the ground beside me and asked for the time in a faint accent I couldn't quite place. "It's 10:30, I answered, then hesitated. "Don't you have a watch?" "I don't usually have time for time," you answered cryptically with a low chuckle. You lit a cigarette, and as I watched the smoke dissipate into the cooling night, I couldn't help but think of all the dreams I'd ever had, or any of us. Unfinished law degrees and failed relationships and stupid decisions, exhaled into nothingness. The time spent and the time lost, the time remaining and what any of it meant in this moment. Perhaps you were right. The sunset that night was the most beautiful I'd ever seen. A perfect rainbow hue transformed the sky. Deep fiery red, orange, ochre, green, navy into indigo, and inky violet expanse, stretching off into endless night. The splinter of a new moon and scattered stars were the only light in the approaching darkness. Charcoal clouds smudged the scarlet horizon as wisp-like and insignificant as I had felt. No thread of storm or rain, just blown dreamily along with the summer breeze. I averted my gaze back down and spotted my friend in the distance. "Goodbye," I said. "Good luck with the rest of your travels." I picked up my bag to cross the road. You looked at me with bright eyes and nodded. "May your life be lovely," you said, "and may your love be lively." We shared a knowing smile, and then you turned your head and I turned mine, our eyes getting accustomed to this new darkness. We were strangers once more. As I walked down my familiar streets, I thought, isn't it nice to dream of another life? Fleeting fanciful thoughts of friends and lovers and betterness, and finding new places to dream under the silver stars.